5 minutes. Let me know. Okay, you got 5.
Welcome, fight fans, to the Fighters Boys Kick-Ass Podcast. Your Fight Talk Authority. Not to mention the most entertaining and talked about podcast with your kick-ass host, Richard ORTIZ.
You mad? Come at me, bro.
And his loyal kick-ass co-host, Senor Cole Escovedo. Streaming live and worldwide. Coming to you all the way live from a little place somewhere in Cali. The Fighters Boys.
And we're simply knocking out the competition. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the podcast. Everybody's at home. They're bored. They got nothing to do. But you know what? The Fighters Boys continue to fight on with this platform for you, the viewers and the fans. I got my co-host with the most, the one, the only, the UFC veteran himself, Mr. Cole, the Apache Kid, Escovedo. What's happening, Cole?
What's going on, amigo? I see you got the blue backdrop going on today.
You know, I'm basically in the kitchen, man, making it happen. So you may see my dog remove the curtain and say hello and welcome himself to the show.
No, yeah, dude. Hey, this is why I'm out in my car. Like, this is why I'm out in the car. If not, I'd have the same problem of like a 4-year-old or a 10-year-old trying to like jungle gym themselves over me right now because they want to be in the video.
I'm hearing you right now, and that's why we have the most experienced, the grinder, the engineer himself, the producer, Mr. KP, making this happen, making it look professional. Everybody's at a standstill right now. Everybody has a voice. Everybody wants to be heard, but you know what? They've been shut down, but the Fighter's Voice continues to fight on. And I know my man has some news to drop, and I'm talking about the one, the only, the media guy himself, making it all happen. The chief, I don't want to say emperor, but he is basically the man in charge of Top Rank Boxing, and that's Mr. Evan Korn. Evan, welcome to the show, my man. Media relations himself.
Well, yeah, no, it's good. Last time we were in Fresno, and hopefully I could be back in Fresno sooner than later, but good to be here with you virtually.
Well, that's the plan. Everybody is expecting Top Rank Boxing, yourself, Bob Arum, the whole team to come down in Fresno. I don't know what's going to happen the 9th, but I know it's going to happen. With Rick Morigian pushing, if it was up to him, it'd be on, like I said it before, it'd be on the planet Pluto or the moon or even Mars.
Yeah, Rick is, when I say the hardest working person I know, he's up there, man. Rick is tireless, and he does so much for boxing in the Central Valley. And you know, when you see the big crowds in Fresno, 14, 15,000 people there to see Jose, you know, obviously Top Rank has something to do with it, but Rick is the guy, is the engine that puts the butts in the seats because he has such a good pulse on that community where you guys are. So credit really goes to him when you see those big crowds at ESPN and ESPN Plus.
Cole, he's basically telling us something that we already know. I mean, me and Cole got an inside joke. I wonder what that tastes like. I mean, yeah. Rick, we describe him as a shark out of water, eating every opportunity in sight.
I call Rick the madman. I tell him that I say that to his face. I go, Rick, I call Rick the madman Morigian because he is tireless and he drives everybody crazy, but in a good way. And you know, when a guy drives you crazy, as long as he gets results, that's all that matters.
Yeah, execution.
He is one of a kind, that's for sure.
Cole, you and myself have been saying this over and over again. Cole, you've met the man. You reached out to him. He reached out to you. Tell us what those conversations are like.
My conversations with Rich are usually pretty like on like not really a business level, but more of a buddy level. Like it's just chatting it up kind of thing. Like asking him, you know, his opinion on this or his thoughts on that, or hey, you know, I thought that was really cool. But I've seen him with his business conversations, and those are pretty brutal. I've seen a lot of higher up guys' business conversations before within like the MMA industry stuff, and it's just like, wow, that's a really nice dude, and I just watched him chew into somebody. So mine have always been real, just like, hey, how's it going kind of thing. Hey, you going to the fights? Yes or no? I'll see you there kind of thing. But he's been pretty nice. I like him, but he is driven. I've worked with him before. The guy's driven. It's just always, hey, we're doing this. Hey, we're doing that. Hey, we're doing this. It's going to be like this. And I'm like, God damn, that's a lot of stuff, man. So it's driven would be an easy assessment if I had to give him like a one word type thing.
I best describe him like this. Everybody has a parachute on. Everybody jumps out. He's not going to tell you when to pull it. Okay? If you don't pull it, you're hitting the ground. If you pull it too soon, you're going up too high. So you got to know when to do it. He's going to give you the opportunity. If you don't bank on it, he's going to move on.
Pretty much.
But, you know, other than that, let's talk about top-ranked boxing as a whole. I mean, Bob Arum addressed the world. He addressed the media. He wants to be better safe than sorry. But I know the man, he breathes boxing. He lives boxing. He is the face of boxing. Evan, tell us what's going on. How hard was it to postpone some of those big events and knowing that they're still going to happen in the future?
You know, at the end of the day, it's, you know, it's hard and easy to postpone an event given what's going on. I mean, it's hard because you feel for the fighters. They, you know, they lose out on paychecks and opportunity, and, you know, they train 7, 8, 9 weeks. And then the week, you know, especially the week of Mick Conlon and Shakur Stevenson cards, you know, it was basically the week of their fights that the fights got postponed. So you feel for them. They prepared so hard. So that's where you feel for them. But, you know, when you listen to the health experts and the New York State Commission and the local government, you know, it was, you know, the fights couldn't go on. So from that perspective, you know, we really had no other choice. And I believe, you know, ourselves and the other major promoters out there are making the right moves. And at this point, it's really mandated by the government. So, you know, we're doing what we can, and hopefully, you know, we'll be back sooner than later. But obviously, that's contingent on the situation working out.
You know, there's one man. I mean, let's talk about another gentleman that's driven, and we're talking about this guy. I don't want to say he doesn't know for an answer. He just the fans, the viewers, gladiator fights, and I'm talking about Dana White. Cole, I want your opinion on this. He wants to continue to find a site to sanction this big fight with Tony Ferguson and Khabib. What's your take on that?
Well, I mean, we've still got some time. It's what, we're coming up on the end of March, and it's supposed to be like, what, mid-April for that card is what it was scheduled for, or early April. I think between now and then, they might be able to find a location or an alternative location. The trick isn't really finding a location and getting it sanctioned. I think the trick on their hands is finding a location and setting out a game plan to the commission that they feel, the commission feels all necessary steps have been taken to ensure, I guess, medical safety of everybody that's going to be involved with making that production of that event. Because you got to remember, they're going to run it on probably a skeleton crew. They're going to run it on as few people as possible, limit exposure, limit cross-contamination. I think it'll be the biggest pay-per-view numbers in their history, but I think the gate's going to be a little light. But I could see them finding a venue. It's just a matter of basically showing CSAC or any commission, depending on the state they end in, here's our game plan, here's what the steps we're going to take. Do you agree with these steps? And they're probably going to talk with health organization officials and stuff and say, hey, here's their game plan. Are they taking enough necessary steps to limit risk or exposure, but still put on this production? And they're going to say, oh, there's always going to be risk and limit. But I think they'll come up with a game plan. Between now and when it's scheduled, yeah, I think it could happen. I mean, personally, I don't think the fight will happen, but it's possible. I've been saying it wouldn't happen since it was announced, though, but that's just me. So I still think, like, Ferguson's going to get hurt or something, and he'll end up fighting, like, some out-of-the-wall, like, McGregor event or something will happen. Like, it'll be the hugest pay-per-view ever done or something.
Okay, when you say he's going to get hurt, he's probably going to get professionally hurt. You know, kind of step aside.
Yeah,
I don't want to insinuate, but we know the way this business works.
Yeah, I have an undisclosed injury.
Yes, exactly. Evan, when are you getting called to the round table? When are you getting called in for the meeting to say, okay, you know what, guys, we got to find an alternative. This is our date that we're shooting for. Is there anything going on?
Listen, man, that is admittedly above my pay grade. You know, that's an operational level. That's discussion with Brad Jacobs and Todd DeBuff and ESPN. Those are the high-level conversations. I'm just there to spread the message when it needs spreading. You know, honestly, at this point, you know, we're, you know, like all the other major promoters, we're really still in a holding pattern. Obviously, it's disappointing. We had a really good upcoming schedule with Inoue, for Stevenson fight, and Jose, and, you know, obviously potential of Lomachenko and Teofimo Lopez on May 30th. That's been the rumor. So obviously, all that is been put on the back burner, and it's really a wait and see approach. when we were in New York, the Shakur fight didn't get officially postponed until Thursday night. So that was about 48 hours before the main event. And when we got to New York, when I arrived in New York on Wednesday, we were still full steam ahead for the fight happening. I was always a little skeptical about the Conlon fight, but I thought we would get the Shakur's fight in under the gun, and we didn't. So basically, what I'm saying is things are changing so rapidly that it's impossible, and I'd say not appropriate to even speculate at this point. Obviously, there's so many more important things going on in the world right now, and I think everybody's focus should be on that. And then hopefully, if that's addressed, we can get back to fighting like we all love.
That question that I just asked, about 4 different people send me that question to ask in different settings, but that was $1 million question. I'm glad you even touched on it. So I thought it was a fair question, and it was a great answer. I want to ask you this. Let's talk about the Loma fight and the Lopez fight. As a businessman, you really can't say, okay, well, I think this guy's going to win. But as a fan, who are you hinting, and how long do you see that fight lasting when it does take place?
For me, I look. It's tough because my opinion has varied probably 150 times over the last 6 months. Some days I feel like Loma's experience will be too much. Some days I feel like, hey, well, Teofimo's bigger and he's stronger at the weight. So I really don't have a prediction, and even if I did, I couldn't tell you, Richie, because we promote both guys. But it truly is a classic crossroads fight. It's like Trinidad Vargas in a sense, not apples to apples, but you have the older champion, you have the 21-year-old, 22-year-old wonderkin coming up, and that's the sort of parallel I make to it. But I hope it happens, like all boxing fans, and once this whole situation gets under control, then hopefully that fight gets made. If not next, later down the line, but hopefully next.
I just want to tell you this. Word on the street is, and some of the experts, and it's a great comparison, they're comparing that fight to Floyd Mayweather and Canelo. Really like Lomachenko taking it now because the younger Lopez is getting better and better as his career is arising. As where now Canelo, of course, he cut the distance, and Father Time is undefeated at the end of the day. I think Loma has enough to squeeze out a victory. But what's it going to do for Lopez? Make him bigger and better.
The one that is a good parallel. The one thing I would say is Canelo was really a pup at that point. Really a pup. I mean, I think Teofimo was further along in his career at this point than Canelo was at that point. Now, Canelo has developed into a sensational fighter, one of the 2 or 3 or 4 best pound-for-pound fighters in the world. At that point, he was not at that level. Teofimo has knocked out an established champion in Richard Comey, which, Canelo had beaten some guys, but prior to fighting Mayweather. But I think what Teofimo did against Comey eclipsed anything Canelo had done up to that point. Now, what Canelo has done after fighting Mayweather has been nothing short of remarkable. But that is a good Richie. That is a good comparison. But I mean, listen, time will tell. When the fight happens, we'll see who's right, really.
I'm excited, and I'm just like you. I keep going back and forth on that. And, after spending some time with Teofimo, you can't help get close to these fighters. Their personal life. You can't help but adopt them inside your circle, your inner circle that you try to keep very small. When you meet a nice person from one human being to another, you can't help but accept them in their family and get close to them. I'm sure that's tough for you because you meet a lot of fighters at a personal level.
Yeah, listen, it's tough. I mean, you try and keep some distance because at the end of the day, especially in a fight like Teofimo versus when Teofimo fought Comey was and is a fighter signed with Lou DiBella and Teofimo signed with Top Rank. So that's more of a rooting interest. But when it's Loma and Teofimo, they're both top-ranked fighters. So you try and keep neutral, and you just at the end of the day, you hope that both fighters come out of that safe and sound, and that's a good fight for the fans ultimately.
Exactly, Cole. When you hear that, I mean, you're still in the fight game. When I say that, because the relationship that you established through the years and fighting in the UFC, How hard is it to pick a winner, Cole, when you have two guys that you're personally friends with, or personally you've crossed that line as far as you allowed them in your circle? How tough is that for you, Cole, to make a decision when two fighters that you're very close with share the cage together?
I've come across that scenario like a few times over the years. I try to stay as neutral as possible. I really try not to pick one or the over the other. I stick whenever I get asked that question, like, "Oh, what do you think about A versus B?" I'll generally tell people, "Well, I don't pick a winner, but here's what I think A is good at. Here's what I think B is good at. Here's where I think they have their advantages in the fight." Then that's it. Like, I don't ever pick one, but I'll just give my opinions on why they both chances they have to win the fight, and then I just go, then just come to your own conclusion at that point. I've never gotten stuck cornering. I've cornered, I think, once or twice in my career. I actually got the corner during commentary one time. We were doing live mic commentary during.
Oh, wow.
Was it Dax? Yeah, we had a cat on our team named Dax, and that guy was crazy. That dude was legit crazy. Like, he was a cool dude, but that cat was wild. But I cornered him one time while I was doing commentating for a fight at the Palace. So in that sense, I try not to get, as opinionated about it. I try to keep it to, like I said, here's what A is good, here's what B is good. That's the best I'll give you. I try not to stick in that position because I don't want someone back later coming going, "Oh, dude, why'd you pick him?" It's like, I didn't say that. So I try to stay neutral.
And you do a good job about it. Evan, I want to ask you this, man, because we're left on a high. When I say we, I mean Top-Rank Boxing. Let's talk about the Gypsy King, Tyson Fury. I mean, that victory is one of the greats for Top Rank, one of the greats for the heavyweight division, and one of the greats for historically the heavyweight division. How much of a high did you have after that victory? I mean, a lot of people didn't come down, and I want to tell you my experience with that.
I don't know if I'm still down from that victory yet, man. That was special. I mean, I knew, people were speculating about Tyson's weight, and they were comparing it to Andy Ruiz because Tyson came in about 15 pounds heavier than his last fight, and Ruiz was about 20 odd pounds heavier than when he beat Joshua. I mean, and I was telling people, I said, listen, if Tyson's not in shape, he's fooling everybody, because I saw him in the gym. I probably watched him spar 30, 40 rounds myself during that camp. During camp, he got sharper and sharper and sharper. At the end of camp, he looked like $1 million. And he didn't weigh in with his shirt on, which led people to speculate, oh, well, what's he hiding? But I saw him in the gym. I saw how his upper body, his shoulders, his traps, how much more muscular he was. And he was 17 pounds heavier than when he fought Otto Wallin, but his body looked better. And a lot of that credit I saw in the house. George Lockhart, who I'm sure Cole knows from MMA circles, one of the renowned nutritionists in mixed martial arts, was living with Tyson, was prepping 5-6 meals a day. He had a masseuse in his camp full time that he brought over. He did he cut out, he was in the buildup. He was joking about, I cut out Diet Cokes from the camp. That's not a lie. I mean, I when I used to do media days with Tyson, he used to drink 7-8 Diet Cokes in an 8-hour period, which
a lot.
Yeah, which is not great. So we cut that out. I mean, he lived a clean camp. So I saw all that. So I knew he was as prepared as he could possibly be. So that made me confident. But at the weigh-in, when I saw Wilder at 231, that concerned me, because Wilder has proven that he can be that, at 215, 210, he's got the power to knock out any heavyweight in the world. So to go up to 231, that raised some alarm bells for me. And when I saw that, I was even more confident that Tyson would get the job done. And then, by the second round, I was like, okay, unless Wilder lands a 1% shot, Tyson's sort of got this in the bag. But, the great thing about that fight was with Wilder, even in the 5th, 6th, 7th round, I'm just like, your heart's in your throat. But yeah, I mean, I was confident. I was very, very confident, and the result showed out.
When he moved up in weight, I'm talking about Tyson Fury, and then he led Deontay Wilder to move up. It's like as if to say, hey, come on, follow me into deep waters because I'm about to drown you. Now, Let me know what you think about this. A lot of people have, let's talk NBA. When you see Larry Bird on the court, they see this white guy. They go, you know what? I'm going to take him to the hole. This guy can't score off me. You look at him, you say he's nothing. Before you know it, he has all these rings and all these championships. A lot of people have called, including myself, Tyson Fury, the Larry Bird of boxing. When you hear that comment, what's your assessment on that comment?
Larry Bird of boxing? I've never heard that.
Well, you heard it first on the fighter's voice.
No, I mean, I am hearing it first. I think nowadays this quote unquote great white hope is not as prevalent as it was 30, 35 years ago. You know, you saw it with Tommy Morrison in the 90s and Jerry Cooney in the 80s, and Joe Macy in the early 2000s. But Tyson is, again, a different breed. He went out of his way during fight week, when he was asked by Jason Whitlock about the sort of the racial element of the fight, to really distance himself from that because he didn't want that to be part of the promotion. And I credit both him and Wilder for not making it a white versus black thing like Holmes versus Cooney was. That promotion in particular dredged up a lot of ugliness.
Let me stop you right there, Evan. What I meant by it was, when you see Larry Bird, a lot of people, that has nothing to do with him. You just kind of see him. You don't see no muscle proportion. You don't see no athleticism. You don't see a cut washboard abs. You just see this guy and you figure you'll just juke him and take him to the hoop. But when he has the basketball, he jukes you. He is the athlete. He doesn't look the athlete when he takes the floor, along with Tyson Fury. You see him, and you never see them big man that agile and such an athlete. That's what I meant by the comparison.
No, I hear you, and I think a lot of times people see the muscle-bound, six-pack. When before Ruiz, AJ again looked like, as Steve Kim would say, looked like off the cover of Muscle and Fitness. In the rematch, he still looked like an Adonis, but he was about 12, 15 pounds lighter, and he was able to box and move, and was probably at a better weight than he was the first fight. A lot of times, the best, the body that gets you on the cover of Muscle Fitness isn't the most effective to be a world-class boxer. Most of a lot of the best fighters in the world don't have the 12 packs. They, a guy like Jose.
I agree.
A guy like Jose Ramirez, in great shape, but he doesn't have a 12 pack. He's got, it's more lean muscle mass, and that is what's more effective to be a world-class fighter.
I agree with you. Hey, just to let you know that if we get shut down, it'll be like 1 minute. I'll send you the new app because of the time, because I want to continue to go forward. I just got the new app right now. I'm sure you got it too, Cole. So when I get it, I'm going to send it right to you, Evan, and then we'll come back and pick up where we left off. I do want to say this. Right after the fight, the Tyson Fury fight, I'm getting ready to catch a cab, to catch a flight. That's the very next day. This is a true story, Evan. I look to the right, and I see the masses of people right outside the MGM Grand Hotel, and I'm going, okay, it's either Tyson Fury or McGregor or somebody. I say it jokingly. I look outside. You have Tyson Fury outside, only with his brother. No security, no entourage. He is there as if to say, you know what, I can't go to my room. I can't leave. I want to share this victory with the fans and my people. He was there touching everybody. He was embracing everybody. And people, when they caught an eye on him, and when they just touched him or took a picture, they were at awe. I mean, he is definitely a people's person and a people's champion.
Yeah, that, and his, the thing that I let I can say for Fury and for Lomachenko and for Crawford is they have their circles are like Crawford's got a big circle with him, and Fury did in camp. But they're his family, they're his closest friends, they're the people that have been there since the beginning. Tyson had his three brothers, his security guard Brendan, great guy, and that's really about it. And his camp manager and one of his closest friends, Tim Alcock, who's a great guy. Those guys have only their closest friends and family around them, and I think that's what keeps them calm and just throughout a stressful fight week. They have the people that are most important to them. They don't have any extra hangers-ons that are there to cause a ruckus. They have the people that are closest to them. And Tyson, again, is a man of the people, and even coming off the biggest victory of his career, listen, his brother, I don't know if it was Shane or Huey that he saw outside with him, but they're big dudes. They can take care of themselves, man.
Yes, I can. But my point is, you see this guy on a poster. You see him where you can't even get close to him. The very next day, he's right outside, and he walks the strip. He took off walking the strip like a regular person.
No, I was once with him in New York City, and he's just going up to New York City police officers, taking pictures with them. I mean, that's the kind of dude he is. I mean, he's, you know, when he's in fight week, he's gregarious. He'll talk to anybody. After his fights, he goes back home and he spends quality time with his family. I mean, he's, for as unique a character as he is, and for everything you see, you know, and his unique upbringing and everything, he's really a normal dude. You know, he likes spending time with his wife and his kids. When he's home, when he's in camp, that's his time to switch on, and when he's home, he switches off. He's really as abnormal as a life as he leads. He's kind of normal.
Cole, when you hear that, you've been around a mega stars in the UFC. Who would you say you can make the comparison to as far as, I mean, this guy is just a mega star, and yet he is just so down to earth, and he is a people person?
Well, for a while, I would have said BJ Penn would have been like my go-to answer, because that cat was just super laid back, was friends with everybody. If you were nice to him, he was nice to you. He wanted to help you learn, progress. Like, there was a good stretch of his life where I would have said, yeah, BJ Penn probably would have been that guy. Like, he never said no to an autograph. I've seen tons of guys like turn down autographs, and I've seen guys just hang out and stay pretty humble. There's one cat, I don't know if many people would consider him a superstar. I would. Dude's fought all over the world. Anthony Ruiz. I would say Anthony is a same kind of cat like that. Like, he's a fireman, he's a fighter, he's a dad. Like, when you see him when he's not in camp, he's just goes to work, does his job, hangs out with the kids. But some people wouldn't consider him a superstar, but a lot of people don't realize that dude's fought in Russia like a couple times. He's fought overseas. Like, they bring him overseas to fight regularly. So I would say that guy's got more global experience, and he's still pretty humble about it. So I would say he'd be on the top of my list these days, provided he's still fighting. I don't know. He might like take a fight every once a year as like a birthday present or something to himself.
There you go. Hey guys, I want to talk about this, and I'll start with you, Evan. Let's talk about this virus. We know how it's changing the world. We know how it's changing lives, and a lot of people are pressing the panic button. What has it done for you, Evan, as far as, you know, personally? I mean, you get to stay home and you get to relax. In some sense, you're embracing it, and you get to catch up. How's that been for you?
I mean, listen, at the end of the day, you know, what is staying in? It's really, you know, it's a very minor inconvenience compared to all the other crap that people are, you know, you got doctors and nurses risking their lives. You have countless people, you know, fighting for their lives. So at the end of the day, who am I or anybody to complain, you know, to be, you know, that we're in quote unquote self-isolation. You know, I still have a roof over my head. I have a job that I love, still working from home because there is still business to attend to. So at the end of the day, I think, you know, what's going on in the world is a lot more important than, you know, any of our minor inconveniences, right? I mean, listen, I'd rather be, you know, selfishly, I'd be on a plane to Quebec today, right? If the world was normal, I'd be getting ready for Arthur Beterbievr's fight in Quebec City. Unfortunately, that's not the case, but my minor inconveniences pale in comparison to, you know, what's really going on in the world.
And Cole, how's your life? What have you done to make this, I would say, these adjustments?
I mean, I'm kind of in the same boat. I was working in the school, so I'm just kind of like adjusting to having more of the free time kind of thing, I guess. But being very creative, like I said, I've got two littles hanging out with me. So being creative has been the new challenge. So I kind of got, I did my tour and I kind of got like drafted back into this kind of lifestyle. So it's been creative, especially with the rain. The rain makes it a little harder, you know, able to go out into the front yard and stuff and be able to like play chalk, play soccer, kick a ball around, things like that. So kind of when it rains, it does make it a little more difficult. But other than that, I haven't made too many changes. You know, I usually just get up early anyway, do schoolwork, have breakfast, make lunch, try to get in a little bit of workout, try to get a run in, you know, when possible, try to just keep it in the neighborhood and just jog around the empty streets, you know, right around my neighborhood. So other than that, about it. You know, I would just stress that try to eat healthy, try to stay in shape a little bit. You can still stay semi in shape at home, but just keep your body healthy. Try to keep as much of a routine, keep your mind distracted. A lot of people forget it's easy to get like cabin fever, isolation fear, things like that. Just got to keep your mind active. Puzzles, crossword puzzles, math, board games, things that make your brain work. I mean, you got apps for all that. They got an app for that. So anything to keep your mind active, I think would be the best thing to combat the, I guess, lack of, all social experience that we're all missing out on right now. And multiple interactions with strangers, separation, things like that. Go outside, take a breath for a minute. Like that's a big one, I would say. If you're stressed or you're feeling, just stressed, go outside, take a minute to yourself. Make sure you do that so that you can kind of keep your sanity. But other than that, I haven't really changed too much.
Evan, how's your experience been when you went grocery shopping or just to the store to get some personal needs?
Well, Richie, I'm glad you asked. For grocery shopping, Whole Foods, they're an Amazon Prime member. Shout out. You get groceries delivered to the house, so that I've been doing that when I can.
Nice.
And I'm just honestly trying to minimize as much interaction, especially in places like grocery stores, supporting some of my local takeout joints, encourage that. I got a great Thai place walking distance from my house, so that's fantastic. But honestly, it's, at the end of the day, I'm more worried about, I got parents out in New York that are a little older, so I worry about them. They're doing everything they can to stay safe, and at the end of the day, that's what's most important.
I agree with you. I went to the store briefly and I saw that line and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna try I'm gonna try something else. Today was the day that I was gonna go grocery shopping. But I will share this with you. And I almost got a picture of this, I almost got video of this, but I didn't want to be one of those guys. Check this out, guys. I'm at Costco and I saw a huge
hold on, Richie. You went to Costco. That was your first. See, fortunately for me, I did a Costco run about 3 weeks ago just for my normal once or twice a year Costco run, and so I loaded up on the toilet paper and the paper towels and the cleaning supplies. So I got cleaning supplies till 2023. But Richie, what are you doing going to a Costco in Clovis during the pandemic? Man, you are. Is it Clovis? Which Costco? Clovis, Fresno. I know
either one. Costco is Costco and it's crazy. And I just wanted to say somebody had their priorities in line. I saw this basket full of beer, crazy beer, and one roll of toilet paper on top of it. And I wanted to get a picture of that. Yeah, good choices. So that was my short story, man. But it was a madhouse in there. It was worse than Black Friday. It was worse than, hey, we're giving away everything free. I walked in, I walked out, but I noticed that, somebody was loading up with the beer and only got a couple rolls of toilet paper.
Yeah, I'm not much of a drinker these days, so I got about a 12-pack and a few bottles of gin if the mood strikes. But no, man, it's been inconvenient. But as I said, there's a lot of people going through a lot worse stuff right now. There's been mass layoffs. Here in Vegas, we've been getting hit extraordinarily hard. The casinos
are shut down.
Waiters and waitresses and bartenders, nightclubs are laying off people. Nowadays is a time when when the pool parties are happening. So all the young women who are servers there rely on that for their spring and summer income.
Yeah,
they're out of a job. I mean, really, everybody in the service industry is taking a big hit. So I'm more worried about them and how they'll bounce back. Especially in Las Vegas. Las Vegas is one of those cities when when recessions happen, we get hit worse than most because we're a service industry. When the economy is doing well, like it has been for the last 8 or 9 years, Vegas is booming because obviously people have more disposable income and travel here. So I'm honestly worried, about my adopted hometown and hopefully people are doing okay.
Cole, how's your experience been when you went shopping, or are you ordering online as well as Evan is?
I've kept my shopping down to a minimal. I wasn't hoarding stuff like everybody. I was just, when I go shopping, I've been picking things up to last me like a week or two, and then we just kind of work off that. Frozen meats, things that you can cook, rice, pasta, just simple stuff. Just get in the habit of making dinner. Like you get back into the habit of like leftover night. That's a fun thing.
Yes.
You know, so it's just, you know, you start to learn more, which is good time actually for kids to learn how to cook. So if you have kids that you want to start teaching them how to cook, now's the time. By the way, teach them how to cook, teach them how to change a battery, teach them how to change the oil, teach them how to work on home stuff, you know. This is the opportunity for you, you know, vocational type people to spread that knowledge with at least the people around you as best you can, you know, maybe make a video or something, which there's tons of them already, but I keep it minimal, you know. I'm just trying to limit my exposure, I guess, if you want to call it that.
You know, at first my concern was, you know, I was thinking about everything else like everybody was, toilet paper, you're thinking about water, but what I forgot to think about was I have some animals. I got some cats and dogs, but I've been successful in getting dog food and cat food, so I had to take care of them, or if not, they're going to come in the kitchen and cook for themselves.
Yeah, mine will go outside and catch a bird. I'm not worried about that.
There you go. Evan, do you have any pets at all?
No, I travel too much to have pets, man. Listen, I'd spend all my money boarding my pets if I had a pet. So no pets for me. I live by myself, which has its advantages and disadvantages during a pandemic.
No, I hear you. Once we go back to the norm, once we go back to, okay, we've been relieved, so to speak, what did you miss the most, Evan? What are you looking forward to doing once we get back to living the norm?
I want to go to the fights again. I love traveling. I love going to the fights. Fresno is my favorite place. No, I do enjoy Fresno, and I just enjoyed again. I will enjoy getting back to normal.
There you go. And Cole, what do you got your sights on, man? What are you waiting to jump into once we go back to the norm?
And you know, as funny as it sounds, just going back to work. Like I enjoyed my job. I liked it. It's a fun job. It's a challenging job. So I would like to go back to work. Plus, like I need to like have like a 6-hour day or more again. Like needs to happen.
You know what I want to do is maybe I'm gonna take this time. I'm gonna try to learn a little bit of.
Remember, every fighter has a voice.
What's up, guys? Daniel Cormier. I'm with the Fighter's Voice radio show.
We're more than just a voice. The fighter's voice. Remember, every fighter has a voice.
What's up, guys? Daniel Cormier. I'm with the Fighter's Voice radio show.
We're more than just a voice. The fighter's voice.
I sent it to Evan too, so waiting for Evan.
Yeah. I've got audio. There we go. Now I got massive video. There we go.
Yes, sir. Yeah, okay. What was I talking about? I forgot. Oh, yeah.
What you were looking forward to much?
Oh, yeah, yes. What I wanted to do was brush up on my Spanish, man. I want to do a Spanish interview. So I don't know when that's going to happen, but I do want to break that barrier.
That would actually be a good goal. Maybe learning another language would be a good goal. I like that idea, actually.
Yeah. You there, my man? Yeah, I see you there, Evan. Okay, cool. So that's just...
Evan's managed to fix the video.
Oh, okay. Yeah, mine too.
I managed to goof my video somehow, and I don't know what I did.
You know what? Just press the metal button where you see that head and shoulders there. That's what I've been doing.
Yeah, I'll figure it out.
Okay, as we go.
Yeah, but yeah, that's what I've been looking forward to. School, you've been looking forward to learning Spanish. Maybe another language wouldn't be that bad of an idea.
No, at least, you know, to be able to communicate to, you know, here's the thing. If I was to bump into Canelo, I wouldn't be able to tell him how much I appreciate him. and that'd be sad. So I am brushing up on that, taking the time and making sure that I'm able to communicate, you know, more than I usually do. And there's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of pressure on me, you know, from, you know, some of my friends, you know, because they know Spanish very well. And I tell them all the time, if I knew Spanish, I'd be a millionaire.
Multi-bilingual content.
Yeah, exactly. How about Evan? How's your Spanish?
My Spanish is not great. Luckily I have a publicist. The other publicist at Top Rank, Gardy Lopez, speaks fluent Spanish, so I have that covered. He's my Spanish translator.
There you go, man. There you go. Hey, you know what's always been fun for me? KP, you could vouch for this. Evan, whenever we did a press conference or we did a post-fight interview, I always noticed Top Rank that have a new signing of a Chinese fighter or a Japanese fighter, and nobody went up to him for an interview. Not one single person. And KP goes, Richard, go do it. And I said, you know what? I'm going to go do it. Let's use an interpreter. Let's make it happen. So they would stay there. They would take pictures. But I believe, how many we got, KP? 3? Yeah, I think we do got 3 interviews with some of your fighters, Evan. And, you know, to work with an interpreter, it was kind of something to get used to, when to hold the mic, when to pass the mic, exactly who to give it to, when to talk. And, you know, you learn as you go. But I took on that challenge, and it was fun.
Man, maybe one day. My goal is to learn conversational Spanish at some point. So at 33 years old, I still have a little time. Oh, let's get to it, you know.
Well, see, it's gonna take, and you can agree with me, Cole. Evan needs to get himself together with some kind of señorita, and he'd be knowing he'd be knowing more Spanish than everybody.
You'll learn real fast, I'd imagine. Yeah, you're gonna put a little weight on though. That I can guarantee you.
Yeah,
knowing you, dude.
Yeah, knowing how difficult I am to deal with, I'll learn the curse words first, I'm sure.
She'll teach you a couple other words too.
Mostly it'll be the curse words first.
You'll know when she's mad. That's the best part. You'll know when she's mad.
Exactly. He's going to say, hey, Richie, what does papi mean? And he's going to know exactly what that means. She keeps calling me papi. What does that mean?
No, I know what that means. Come on. I know a little bit.
Al, just having fun, baby. It's all good. It's all
not a total gringo.
I took a couple semesters worth of Spanish, so that means nothing, you know. But
oh wow, yeah, that's more than me.
Yeah, that did nothing for me. Did nothing.
There you go. Hey,
like, I have enough to get taken advantage of on like a cruise ship.
There you go. Volunteer, right, Cole?
Yeah, it's all inclusive.
Exactly. You know, let's talk about the postponement of the Tyson Fury Deontay Wilder fight.
Pause there, Richie, because it wasn't, you know, the fight wasn't officially postponed because it wasn't officially announced. The date that was reported was one potential date, but you know, according to the contract, said it had to be by that date. But both sides had the option to move the fight back. So that fight was never officially announced. It was sources, according to certain sources, that was the reported date, but that didn't necessarily mean that that's when it was going to happen. You know, so that was still under discussion. So we'll see when it actually does happen.
I like that sharp terminology there. Very sharp terminology there. I like that. You go, hold on a second, Richard. Let me explain something to you. I like that. Now, I'm not sure if it was you that posted or somebody did. This extra time that we have, who does that benefit the most?
Well, that was an article on ESPN by Steve Kim and Dan Rayfield did that. Listen, I don't know. I mean, you know, we won't know until the third fight happens now, do we? You know, logic says, you know, that it might help Deontay Wilder more because he gives him time to recoup and recover and regroup from an absolute butt whooping. Maybe that'll help. Maybe maybe gives Tyson some time to sharpen up on some stuff. So I really don't know, and I don't think we will know until they fight again. You know, at the end of the day, it's just speculation at this point now, isn't it?
Yeah, at the end of the day, nothing's guaranteed. And, you know, I mean, let's keep it real. The Bible says we're not promised tomorrow. Cole, as a fighter, you've been given a date. You prepared yourself mentally and even physically. How difficult is it to, when you get a fight postponed, and how you got to start training camp again and mentally put that switch back on for you?
I mean, mentally, the switch isn't hard to put back on because it is what it is. You should always be able to turn it on and off necessarily, because you might get a short notice fight. So you can't really say, oh, it's harder to turn it back on now. You should always be able to turn it on because short notice fights happen all the time. But it is discouraging to have that much camp gone through, because it costs money too. Like if you have a full camp, like if you get paid, they need to get paid. So it's a financial hardship too, but it's really disconcerting when you're maybe you're on like a 2 or 3 fight win streak and you got some momentum going and you want to go into your next fight on a win and things like that. Like with the NCAA guys, seniors in college and basketball this year, like almost everything's been canceled and probably postponed for the end of the school year. So it's like, as a senior, you might have had scouts coming to see you. As a college athlete, you might have had professional scouts coming to look at you. So it affects athletes all across the board in a negative content, so to speak. But with MMA, it's pretty discouraging because you still have to pay your camp, you have to pay your coaches, your teammates, and you don't make as much money because you weren't given the opportunity to have a fight win purse money.
Yeah, I understand how that goes. And, you know, even the Olympics, that's been postponed and given some more time. It's actually going to take place in 2021. That's the date that's been given. And a lot of them, they have to adapt.
Yeah.
And as human beings, we must adapt. It's called survival. But at the end of the day, we have our health. Thank goodness. Thank God we have our health. Evan, I want your take on this. One of your fighters, Andy Vincent, South Tiburon. Many times he's been at the crossroads as if, okay, Richard, do I quit my full-time job and take on boxing full-time, or do I work full-time and continue to pursue my boxing career full-time? And he made a statement earlier that says, you know, thank God he kept his full-time job, because a lot of fighters have been unable to perform and, you know, the check stops, and he's been so blessed to through all this, to continue to have a full-time job and bring money home and to continue to hold on to those, you know, those benefits.
Listen, you know, there are some fighters, you know, who obviously, Jose Ramirez, Terrence Crawford, who are at the tax bracket where they don't need a second income at this moment. Obviously, any payday is nice. You always want more.
Yes.
You know, you have guys like Andy Vances, Andrew Concio, another guy still has a full-time job with California Gas. You know, you just hope that guys save their money and are smart with their money. But you do feel for the guys who aren't at the upper tier, the top tax bracket. You know, they're like any working American, right? Who maybe were just, you know, laid off or have a part-time job, and you just hope that you know, they sort of have the fight. You just wish for the best. It's a tough situation, man. Really tough.
Yeah, and you know, and I'm glad Andy. You know, I mean, who would have known? But Andy's always been a blue collar, going to work and then going to the gym, and now he's really blessed to that he held on to his full-time job, and I'm happy for him. Actually, he's going to be a guest on the show in 2 weeks. And,
Andy's a nice kid, and you know, when I did hear that, I was, you know, it makes you feel better when, you know, when you hear stories like that, and you listen. Not just our fighters. I hope all fighters were A, smart with their money, and B, are doing what they can to get through this. It's really not an optimal situation.
Cole, throughout your UFC career, you held down was it a full-time job, part-time job, or was it you just dove into UFC completely?
Mostly part-time jobs. My full-time job was the training. So like any part-time job to help subsequent bills and stuff in between fights, but mostly just part-time. Full-time job was the fight training.
How much of a gap did you have from one fight to the next as far as, okay, as a professional fighter, I relied on my income. I relied on that extra money there. And what are the adjustments you made?
Well, more often than I would like to say was a lot of gap in between fights. But there was a time where I was fighting like every other month. Again, it just boils down to money management. You have to be willing to not splurge, not blow your money. That's about it, because you got to treat it like car salesman. You might not have another fight for a couple months. So.
Yeah. There you go. You know what I'm so grateful for, Evan? I'm grateful that, first of all, that I do have a job. I work for the Madera Unified School District. I'm so grateful for that. And it's just something I feel like I need to say. You know, a lot of times I don't really, you know, I thank God every morning for the job. I thank God every morning that I'm awake. But just the fact that, honestly, and I'm not saying this just to always say, because every chance that I get, I'm always trying to promote the show, trying to promote what we're doing. But a lot of people that are on contracts, a lot of people that have been, you know, big value podcasts, they've had to shut down. And I'm just so grateful and fortunate that we continue to offer this platform for, you know, people like you, Evan, and people like myself that get to, you know, not just go on YouTube and say, okay, I want to say this. And I'm blessed that we have this platform to offer people through this crisis.
No, listen, I'm glad you're doing what you're doing, and it's nice to see a lot of the podcasters, you know, who do stuff in studios and stuff where you're making do, and you did a makeshift studio, Richie. It might not look as professional, but you're getting the job done, so it's pretty neat.
Oh, what you don't know is KP behind the scenes is making it look professional. We got the lower thirds in play.
Oh, you got the rap? Okay.
Oh yeah, we got that all going right now. There may be some stills, but the audio is coming in, and it's still gonna hit the YouTube. We're still trying to get those followers, subscribers. So, like I said, my man KP, he's making it happen. We've been blessed to have an engineer, producer on site, on scene. And as we talk about different things, say Tyson Fury, he's bringing up some graphics of Tyson Fury as we go. Cole, you know exactly what we're talking about. It's been a blessing to work with KP.
Oh, dude, it actually makes the job way easier.
I mean, the man's he's just,
anytime we need content, he's Johnny on the spot. It actually makes the job run smoother.
And see, that's what a lot of people don't see, those guys that are grinding behind the scenes, behind the curtain. And KP's one of them. He's definitely a key piece to the fighter's voice. And I'm sure you have some key pieces in your team, Evan.
Yeah, no, it's as I've said before, it's you know, I like to think we're a semi-well-oiled machine. When you see the finished product, I think a lot of people don't realize how many people's hard work and sweat goes into making what we do happen. But at the end of the day, the fighters are the ones that, you know, put their lives on the line in the ring and make it all possible.
Exactly. I got to ask you this too, man, because you're a big fight fan. During this whole time, we can't watch anything live, anything that's happening today. What are your go-to fights, your classics that you can say,
well,
I can watch this all day long?
We're in the middle of an ESPN2 marathon, Top Rank Fights live right now on ESPN2. So Tyson Fury against Otto Wallin is coming up in 8 minutes. You want to watch that on ESPN2, okay. So that's his plug. You know, for me, I have a bunch of old favorites. Terry Norris is one of my all-time favorite fighters, so I watched a lot of Terry Norris fights. And
San Diego.
Yeah, of course. Arturo Gotti is always an old standby. And low-key, Tommy Morrison was in a lot of incredible heavyweight brawls.
Absolutely.
Against like the Razor Ruddock, Joe Hip.
Oh, wait. Let's talk about that. That's one of my favorites. Those guys went back and forth. Correct me if I'm wrong. And Razor Ruddock. Correct me if I'm wrong. Something special happened in that fight that has never happened in a long time. Do you know what I'm talking about?
In the Razor Ruddock fight? No, tell me.
That's the first time that I've ever seen two fighters come in the ring at the same time. That was Tommy Morrison and Razor Ruddock.
I've never seen that before or since. That is correct. The Joe Hip fight, Tommy Morrison broke his jaw, broke his hand, created knockdowns. If anybody hasn't seen that fight, go on YouTube, check it out. The Ray Mercer fight was a great fight until one of the most brutal knockouts in the history of boxing.
Yeah, I agree.
So I honestly sort of go down the YouTube rabbit hole. There's a channel that plays full pay-per-view broadcast of old fights. So I spent about 4 hours watching the entire Trinidad Vargas pay-per-view because I'm a sicko with no life at this point because it's the Korn. So I've just been catching up on old fights, watching fights I haven't seen before, rewatching fights I've watched 100 times before. On the Top Rank YouTube channel, we've been posting a lot of stuff on our channel the last week or two, so I've been diving into those as well.
You know what? One of my favorites one of my favorite fights is Prince Nassim Hamed and Marco Antonio Barrera, and also the Sugar Ray Leonard Tommy Hearn classics. I mean, I can watch those fights over and over again. Sugar Ray Leonard, Marvin Hagler. Cole, what are some of the fights that you recall that you like to watch over and over again, whether it be UFC, the backyard, or boxing? Are you there, Cole? Did I lose you? Okay. Well, maybe Cole will come back in. Maybe he got that call from the kids or something, or he's making some top ramen soup, but that's okay. No, you know what? Let's talk about Terry Norris, man. I mean, Terry Norris, you know, the first time when he got knocked out by Julian Jackson in the second round, or was it the second round, how he reinvented himself, because that was such a brutal knockout. Not too many fighters come back from such a knockout. He came back and at one time was considered pound for pound the best in the world. A lot of people wanted him to get together with Julio Cesar Chavez, but that was just too much mass to give up for asking Julio to go up to 154. Do you remember that era with Terry Norris?
See, I was too young to watch Terry Norris when he was fighting. I became a Terry Norris fan later on. I used to order career sets of DVDs. And Terry Norris, Terry Norris was the one that I just sort of poured through. And I love Terry Norris because he was such an athletically gifted fighter. And like when he fought Simon Brown in the rematch, you know, he could outbox and he could stay disciplined, but to his detriment, a lot of cases, he went toe to toe, and he didn't have the he didn't have the best chin, and to his detriment, you know, also he had a terrible habit of hitting guys when they were on the ground.
Yes, he did.
He did it against Ray Leonard. He was DQ'd for that offense, I believe 3 different times in his career. Twice against Luis Santana, and then once early in his career, and a couple other times he got penalized for it. So the discipline in that regard was lacking, but he just fought like a man possessed. And I always respected him for that. And if anybody hasn't seen, I believe the second round of the Troy Waters fight, one of the greatest rounds in boxing history, almost was the victim of one of the biggest upsets in boxing history. But I just love Terry Norris fights. And so whenever I get down the YouTube rabbit hole, Terry Norris is one of the first guys I go to.
I agree with you. And on that rematch with Simon Brown, he painted a Picasso. Gave him a boxing lesson. I mean, just from start to finish, was disciplined and just, gave him a boxing lesson. 1A.
Exactly. No, and so for me, I mean, I try and have historical perspective, and so I go back and I watch the older guys. And those guys from the 80s and early 90s could hang with any of those guys from today. Other sports, they say the athletes get bigger and faster and stronger. In boxing, those guys from the 80s and 90s really, I believe, were a different breed. Only a few fighters in today's game, I think, could hang with those guys. Terrence Crawford could hang with anybody. Errol Spence, Canelo could hang with most of the middleweights from the past. But it's a rare breed of fighter these days that could do that.
Back then, they just had a different pedigree. That's all there was to it. They just had a different – it was just different for them. I mean, that era was – I'm just glad to be able to be a part of that era, to watch that era. And if you were not, hey, go back in the history books and see for yourself. Those were true fighters. They didn't duck anybody. They made it happen. Of course, they wanted the dollar like everybody else, but at the end of the day, they took care of business inside of the ring.
Listen, there's been political divides in the 90s. When had HBO fighters against Showtime fighters, and there was exclusive contracts.
I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, that precluded some fights from being made. But I think obviously the politics is a bigger hurdle today than it was 20, 30 years ago. But at the end of the day, I mean, Bob Arum and Don King, they got together when the fights needed to happen. De La Hoya, Trinidad, being a prime example. Mayweather, Pacquiao. A little late for some people's taste, but it happened. Well, that wasn't Mayweather wasn't Don King, but you get my point. But I think with Fury Wilder, that's a blueprint to how to cross the political divide, and hopefully Top Rank, Matchroom, PBC, Golden Boy. I mean, we've done a lot of business with Golden Boy. We've done a lot of business with Matchroom, and it's been great working experiences.
I'm glad you brought that up. I was watching that, and I always try to pick up the little things. And how well you guys got along, on how well you guys work together. I mean, that is the true victory. Of course, the big fight, we have a winner, we have a loser. But the main winner, honestly, and you will agree with me, Evan, was us, the fans, the media, the viewers, the supporters. We got exactly what we wanted to see. And we're going to get the opportunity, in Jesus' name, to watch it again. And to see you guys put different things aside as professionals, left the ego outside and work together. And it was awesome from the ring announcers to the corners to the walk-ins to who was announced first to the commentary. You guys, in my eyes, kind of split it right down the middle.
Yeah, I mean, from what I've heard from the people who were, sort of higher, at the executive side, it went pretty smooth. I could speak from a PR perspective, working with Kelly Swanson and her team. That was
awesome.
Smoothly. Yeah, I mean, listen, at the end, you I think like anything, you have debates, you have discussions about certain things, but everybody worked together in a collegial manner, and it doesn't behoove anybody to get into pissing matches over things, and I'm happy with the way things shook out, and I look forward to working with them again should the fights present itself where we have to.
Exactly. Hey, one thing I wanted to say, about an hour after the fight, honestly, unless I didn't see a security, I saw Bob Arum walking through the casino by himself.
Yeah, I know. Bob will take a picture with anybody who asks. That's just the way he is. I think he's at the right level of celebrity, right? He's recognizable, but I saw him get mobbed when he was in a hotel lobby in Japan. He got absolutely mobbed. Took about 75 photos. Oh yeah. It took about 70. It was at after Ryota Murata press conference. Took about 75 photos. Was glad to do it. And so that's just Bob, man. He's been doing it for 55 years. He's used to it.
Hey, he has that passion, and he's not afraid to take the mic and put people in check and speak his mind.
Not at all. Not at all.
I mean, when I see him there, I'm like, okay, Richard, are you sure this is the question you want to ask? And I just try to pull it out as much as I can and keep it professional. I've seen him shut down media before.
Oh, listen, your time's coming, Rich. I'm sure you'll do you'll ask a question to anger him at some point, Richie. That's like your media baptism,
Hey, well, no one's exempt from being put in check by hey, a lot of people want to call him the godfather of boxing.
Listen, he's most media members have been cursed out by him at some point. So it'll happen to you eventually, Richie. I'm sure.
Well, we've been fortunate, man. Hopefully, it happens like this on the low.
No. Listen, you're a very gregarious guy, so maybe that's why. But it might happen. You might have your day.
Okay. Well, I guess if it does, hey, I guess we're on our way when that does happen. But
Exactly.
nevertheless, I'll take it like a true professional. I won't take it personal, because in this business, you cannot
take it personally. Don't take it personally. Don't take it personally.
No, I won't. I want to say this, man. I've watched you from afar, and a lot of people, when they see you from afar, they think you're untouchable. They think, okay, but don't get in this guy's way. I mean, because he's working. And so they asked me, hey, when's a good time to talk? I said, I don't know. I really can't. I couldn't tell you. I'm here because I continue to show up. You got to know when to bug, when to pull back. It's like when you catch a fish. If you pull it in too quick, you're going to lose them. Or if you just stay there, the fish is going to take you. I can't give advice on how to get next to somebody. All I said today, I said, you know what, be yourself, keep grinding, do what you love, and don't take no for an answer, because no means yes unless you're on a date. If you're on a date, she tells you no, brother, that means no.
I was going to say, Richie, I'm glad you clarified that point. Yes.
Exactly. But no, I've been blessed with a great team and the relationships that we're building. And, I want to continue to show you that, hey, we are who we say we are. At the end of the day, you have everybody pitching you things. The only thing I'm going to pitch is the opportunity for you to come on the show, be yourself, and I'm glad you took the platform, you accepted the invite, and you're here telling the viewers and the fans a different part of you.
Richie, self-quarantine or not, I'm glad to come on the show, and we'll next time Fresno happens, we'll go to Doghouse, barbecue on me, my friends. Done. Deal.
Hey, you heard it, my man. You heard it. So how do we follow you? Because I'm going to let you go, man. It looks like you're getting ready to start dinner or something. How do we follow you? How do we keep in touch?
Twitter at Cornerman44 with a K, Korner, Cornerman44 on Twitter. I believe that's my Instagram handle as well. I'm not even sure, but yeah, both platforms. So if you care about what a boxing nerd has to say, follow me.
There you go. And also, when is Top Rank going to have another marathon of boxing or ESPN? When can they follow that? When can they look forward to that?
Well, we got one going on right now, and stay tuned for our announcements, because I'm sure ESPN will have some more stuff for you.
Okay. Hey, you heard it from the man himself, Mr. Evan Korn. We lost UFC veteran, the Apache Kid, Cole Escovedo, because he had to cook for his kids. Hey, life goes on. I want to appreciate everybody for tuning in. And please, once again, subscribe. www.youtube.com/thefightersvoice. That's www.youtube.com/thefightersvoice. Remember, every fighter has a voice, and so do you. It's a wrap here. Madera, Fresno, California, New York, Las Vegas, worldwide. Thumbs up for Richie.
Okay, fight fans, it's not goodbye, but until next week. Remember, it's always voiceography at its finest. So on behalf of Richard Ortiz, Cole Escovedo, the special guests, and all the crew right here at the Kick-Ass Podcast, saying hasta luego, babies. And always, thanks for listening.